What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Happy Skews Day to you. It's October 17th, 2023. I'm Trae Crowder. That's not Mark Agee. You may have already ascertained. This is Travis Irvine, longtime member of the extended Skew universe. You've heard him on Well Read and our other pods on the way. If you saw me in Ohio recently, you saw this young man featuring for me there because he is a denizen of Ohio, or born and raised Ohio boy. In fact, ran for governor of Ohio.
That's right. 2% of Ohio. I'm technically governor of 2% of Ohio, but that's it.
Is that how that works?
You know, no one tells me the rules. I keep
But
calling for a recount. I got 80,000 votes, and that's plenty.
80,000 is, I mean, when you just say that and you leave out the percentage, 80,000 is pretty good.
Yeah, that's a stadium full of people. We could all fit in Browns Stadium there in Cleveland.
Yeah, not bad. Yeah, I'm not going to be going back there anytime soon. We went to the Browns-Titans games, and Titans predictably got destroyed. But still, everybody was lovely. Love Cleveland and the other cities in Ohio as well. Listen, y'all, so here's the deal, FYI. Mark will be back next week. He unfortunately had a death in the family. He had to leave, go back home. If you're a patron, in fact, on the Patreon, he's probably still going to be there at the end of this week. So we may not have a bonus episode this week. We'll have to double up later or whatever. We'll figure it out. We told him, obviously, whatever he needs in this trying time, but he will make his valiant return probably in 7 days. But thank you to Travis for sitting in his place. We appreciate it. And this guy knows his politics here. He's got great taste. In fact, look at this shirt.
Look at this shirt. This is the original right here, folks.
Yeah.
Look at that. Look at that.
That is a
Carney-handed mango man.
That is a Trae Crowder original. It's
2016 right there.
My very, very first runs of merch I ever had. He rocks it all the time because he's a good dude. We're gonna be talking some Ohio stuff because Travis's old friend Jim Jordan's having a bit of a rough day out there, and the entire congressional GOP at large. We're gonna do a lot of making fun of them, and we'll get to that in just a second. But first, of course, I need to cover a couple items of business here, Travis. So for you guys, number one, if you want to see me perform live, you should go to TraeCrowder.com, get your tickets, come see me. I'll be in Charleston and Durham this weekend, then Boston, San Francisco, Phoenix, Chicago, Northwest Arkansas, and then Nashville at the end of the year. And we got dates coming up in 2024 very soon, finalizing those right now. Secondly, also at TraeCrowder.com, you can find a link to check out me and Corey Forrester's new book, Round Here and Over Yonder. It's a comedic travel guide. People seem to be digging it. It's very funny. It's a romp of a time. That's what it is. So yeah, check it out. You can also get the audiobook if you roll that way, and me and Corey read the audiobook. It's a tremendous way to check it out. And then finally, if you like this show and want to show your support, you can do so by signing up on Patreon. Go to weeklyskews.com/more, or just go on Patreon and search for my name. Either way works. $5 a month on there gets you access to full-length bonus episodes. We cover things that come up in between the main show or just other things we want to talk about. We have a good time with it. So sign up on there, get some more Skews in your life. Like I said, we're going to be talking about the comic ineptitude of the House GOP and all things Jim Jordan and Ohio a little later. But first, we're going to start with the Daily Dumbass. Mac, graphic, please. Tonight's DD, anyone who thought Don Jr. could fucking talk. I'll play this clip, Matt.
The high interest rates combating the inflation has made home ownership almost impossible for many Americans.
Yeah. What do you think about that? What's your diagnosis?
I think he's got that cocaine drip in the back of his throat. And it's overtaking the entire thing. He can't move his jaw anymore.
Is that what it is? It's like he's locking up or something. I mean, everybody I think knows that cocaine is involved in some capacity here.
It has to be.
But I thought that
has to be.
I'm not super well versed in cocaineology, but I thought it makes you like more talkative, and he certainly loves to run his mouth.
Yeah.
But I thought it made people like I don't know, louder and faster, like not necessarily dumber sounding. Is what I'm saying. But maybe when you take so much of it, and you already have a dumb brain to begin with, and it rots your dumb brain some, then this is what happens.
Yeah, and I don't want everyone to think that I somehow am adverse into cocaineology, but I do know that yes, if you're already dumb, cocaine will make you talk even more and faster at a party, saying a lot of nothing, which is what Don Jr. does all the time anyway. But also with this, I'm specifically referring to that drip where you put the cocaine up your nose, then it goes down throat, and it has a numbing effect on the whole thing down
right.
here. And I'm looking at this man talk, and I don't know if we can see that there in slow motion, Matt, but you can even see it's almost like he catches himself and is like, that trip tastes so bitter and yummy in the back of my throat. And then he like doesn't finish the word. And the word he can't even say is homeowner, which makes sense because this man has clearly never owned his own home, and neither does his dad, probably.
Dude, Matt giving me a nice big shit sandwich to eat. You see how you said, hey, Matt, if we could see that in slow motion, and I laughed. I was like, no, because it's a running joke on here that Matt is he falls. Sometimes the videos come up a little late, sometimes they're muted, whatever. It's a lovable thing. People enjoy it. But yeah, Matt really told me to kiss his ass from the other side of the screen with that slow-mo effect.
This is
Good
great.
job.
I feel like a sports commentator right here. It's just like, look at him right there. You see right there, the knee goes down on the play. And he's got cocaine drip. I think, honestly, and again, I don't want to seem like I'm an expert over here, but you see someone who has done enough, there is a point in the night where back here in the back of the throat gets tired. It gets covered in so much cocaine drip that the whole functionality of the entire mouth and throat no longer works.
Yeah. You said you felt like a sports commentator. We kind of have that. Like
I
when they go to them in
like
the booth, you do, like look at. I don't know.
I'm gonna do this.
When to look at you and then turn back and smile after making a point.
I agree with that. Yeah. Very good point, Trae.
Yeah,
Don Jr. is a massive piece of shit.
Yes, he is. And speaking of massive pieces of shit, let's talk about Jim Jordan, our next dumbass, which was also going to use for the topic itself. Anyone who thinks a wrestling coach knows how to count to 217. That's right. They had the big vote today on the floor of the House, and this is how it turned out.
The tellers agree in their tallies that the total number of votes cast is 432, of which the Honorable Jim Jordan of the state of Ohio has received 200 votes. The Honorable Hakeem Jeffries of the state of New York has received 212 votes.
And then other random candidates got 20 votes for 20 Republicans. What do you think about this? You surprised by this outcome?
No, I was going to say a rough day for Jim Jordan, but for Jim Jordan, this is just another day at the office. He's one of the most unsuccessful Congress people when it comes to actually getting legislation done. He's never actually had a piece of legislation he sponsored that has been passed. This is his 9th term in Congress. I can speak as an Ohioan. There's plenty of us who are ashamed of Jim Jordan, but the fact that he can't count votes to even become speaker totally makes sense, because the only way he even is in Congress is because he's been completely gerrymandered in there by the Ohio State powers that be. And I don't mean the university where he was a wrestling coach and covered up multiple sexual abuse cases of wrestlers, male athletes and female athletes alike. I am talking about the people who run the Ohio State House. The way they gerrymander it, they always give Jim Jordan a prime piece of Republican territory. One that was so comically drawn, it was called the Duck. I think it went all the way from Jim Jordan's home in central Ohio all the way up to Lake Erie. So it's not a surprise, frankly, Trae, that this guy can't count votes, because he's never had to count votes in 9 terms of being elected to Congress in the first place.
Yeah, it's wild being there that long and not having a single piece of legislation like making any of it happen. It's like you hear that and you think of that line from Office Space. It's like, so what exactly would you say you do here?
Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
Just rake muck. That's what he does there. Stirs shit and other such metaphors.
And to your point, there was another Ohio House Speaker named John Boehner for many years. And even he is not only in his book and later years, but even while he was actually in Congress, talked massive amounts of shit about Jim Jordan. He said Jim Jordan was a guy he'd never seen before in Congress, where he just tears everything down. He works to burn everything down. He builds no bridges. So that's why, again, when Jim Jordan's trying to all of a sudden paint himself like a moderate who can bring everyone together, he can't even bring his own party together. So as always, Jim Jordan's full of shit. And it was that way when he was a wrestling coach, and it's that way now when he's trying to become Speaker of the House.
Well, speaking of talking shit about him, let's hear what Nancy Pelosi had to say.
Oh, boy.
Pretty good little quip.
Ms. Pelosi, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to get a vote today? You think you'll get one?
Yeah, I'll be the last person to know, but I think they're taking lessons in mathematics and learning how to count.
Learning how to count, she said. Yeah. Zanga.
Burn.
Got him. Yeah, no, you said you were like, they can't. he's not a moderate. He can't, reach across the aisle. He can't even like keep his own party together or whatever. I feel like it's the same thing with the party as a whole. When you look at all this, where it's like, I don't understand how any American expects them to govern anything when they so clearly cannot govern themselves. And I feel like it's been this way. I mean, they're crazier now, but I feel like they've been that way for a long time already. I remember thinking like Obamacare, right? Even going back to that, their number one priority for all those years was we've got to get rid of we got to repeal Obamacare. That was the thing that brought them all together, and that was priority number one. And then at one point during in Obama's term, the midterms, they took control of Congress and still never could get that done. So it's even when they have any kind of position of power, they mostly just fail even at the awful shit that they attempt to do. And that's something that that I try to comfort myself with. You know what I mean? It's I hate the things they want to do, but they're so wholly incompetent at doing things that, at least that's something. Now, of course, we need to do a bunch of shit and move in the other. We need to improve things, and they keep that from happening too. But sometimes their own ineptitude, I feel prevents them from being quite as dangerous as they might otherwise be. If they were competent, they'd be even more dangerous.
Right. They're always unprepared for their own success. It's one of my favorite old Al Franken quotes about how Republicans will campaign over and over about how government is incompetent and doesn't work, and then they get elected and go and prove that.
Yeah, right. So that's a Frankenism.
That was a Frankenism.
I heard that before. I like it too. I didn't know that was Al Franken though, but it definitely checks out. Al Franken, rest in peace. He's still alive. But
he's still alive.
He's still very much alive.
He is touring again.
I know he is.
I saw him speak in Nashville at Politicon in 2019.
I'm actually, I don't know. There's a possibility, but I might be doing a private event with him in the near future, me and Al Franken, maybe y'all, but yeah, it's like a conference thing, so unfortunately there won't be tickets for it, and it's not like me and him are going to go on stage together and do a fucking bump and mics. We're just both going to be at the same place at the same time. That would be wild though. But anyway, what's if you're wondering how Kevin McCarthy feels about this whole thing, it is a little complicated, but we got a picture here, right, Matt, that
he's cracking up. That's very funny.
It's a super funny picture, but then he turns around and bitches about it too and everything. Well, let's see, Matt, I know it's not where we're at right now, but can you try to find that the video of McCarthy talking about who's to blame here? It's at the bottom of the dumbass section. I'm clicking on it now. Since McCarthy has come up, we're talking about what he thinks about it. He's got an interesting opinion of who's really at fault with this whole situation. Yeah.
Let's listen to Kevin McCarthy here.
Now we have rules. We don't have to be stuck on the floor. The interesting part of why we're here, every single Democrat voted to stop one branch of government. They created this mess with 8 Republicans. Every single Democrat did that. And so I think what we'll do is we'll go sit down. We'll talk about
all right, you can at least pause it, Matt, or mute it or whatever, because he then gets pretty fired up about it. And a Fox News reporter even pushes back on him a little bit, and he gets all pissed off. Not that he's a very forceful or intimidating figure, in my opinion, but yeah, he gets upset and keeps declaring that the Democrats did this. Every single Democrat and also 8 Republicans did this, and that's how he says it every time. He's like, every single Democrat and then 8 Republicans have done this and shut down government. That's what they've done because this is what they do. And it's I don't expect any of them to say anything different, I guess, but it's just such disingenuous bullshit. It's also there's an implicit implication there, and I know that's redundant, that that the Democrats are supposed to bail them out of their own shit or something. Do you know what I mean? It's like he's part of him is inherently implying we need them to clean our shit up and they won't do it. So really this is their fault.
Right. No, that's a very good point. I mean, first of all, Kevin McCarthy, even when he was speaker, this is standard Kevin McCarthy, right? He's always going to throw the Democrats under the bus.
Yeah.
That's just Republican politics, especially in Congress when you're always just trying to pick up more Republican seats in the next election. That's what it's always about. But I agree with you. that Kevin McCarthy is just asking the Democrats to clean up the Republicans' mess. And to the Democrats' point, I've even had friends who have opined about, well, the Democrats just sided with 8 crazy Republicans, and now this is what's happening. It's like, no, Hakeem Jeffries and the Democrats, and even Pelosi, they've made it clear all along that, like, we're going to support our guy, and we're going to let them figure out their mess. So that's why they voted to oust him.
Yeah. Framing it as like, oh, it's weird. All the Democrats like sided with Matt Gaetz and the craziest Republicans in Congress or whatever. It's like, no, they voted against their opponent who has fucked them over and has been a terrible speaker on their and they voted for their own guy.
Yeah.
What else are they supposed to do?
Right.
Matt Gaetz and them just went rogue, and it's not on the Democrats, but they never pass up an opportunity to, throw the Democrats under the bus, like you said. Yes.
Well, and Hakeem, again, they even said that, you look at the situation. McCarthy never offered them anything to get their votes, or McCarthy could have worked with them better throughout how long was he speaker? Less than 260 days. And he didn't do that. So that's why the Democrats are like, yeah, you know what? We don't want him to be speaker. And then when you get asked, who do you want to be speaker? They're like, we would like Hakeem Jeffries.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're just going to keep playing that card. And frankly, that's smart politics on their side, because it's the Republicans who look incompetent.
Of course.
Right now.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Wait, I mean, why would they want this to be going any other way right now? As long as like the government, doesn't shut down and whatnot, but still, even then, it's not, that is not on them. It's on the Republicans. And every moment this goes on and every failed vote they have and all the infighting and shit that keeps happening and all the sniping at each other, public and everything, it all just serves to make the Republicans look dumber and shittier.
Yes. Yeah.
So like, why
which is pretty hard, but
yeah, right.
Here
but
we
they
go.
Somehow managed to find a way. If you're wondering just exactly how much disarray they're in and the types of motives that are at play amongst the Republicans right now, then check this clip out, Matt, if you've got it ready. Yeah, here we go. Listen to this.
He did not vote for Congressman Jim Jordan, instead voting for Tom Emmer. Well, I guess my first question is, do you really want Tom Emmer to be speaker?
No, I don't. I don't like Tom Emmer. I figured this would be the worst senator in a row would not want to do this for his TV show. This is a terrible job.
Okay, so just to underscore that, you voted for somebody because you don't like them.
I voted for somebody because I wasn't going to vote for Jim.
Yeah.
But specifically a guy I don't like.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's such a
bold strategy.
Yeah, it cracked me up. It's like, I voted for Tom Emmer, so you support Tom Emmer? No, I don't like Tom Emmer.
Like
Tom Emmer sucks.
Good grief.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It is a wild and wacky time to be alive. As Travis mentioned earlier, and I'm sure as all of you are aware, Jim Jordan should be disgraced, but former Ohio State wrestling coach. Actually, and I didn't know this, but America's already had a wrestling coach for speaker.
Yes.
Before. The longest serving Republican House Speaker in history was also a wrestling coach who went to prison for abusing children as their wrestling coach. Now, I think I said this on a recent episode with Mark. This is an internet quote that I'm stealing. I see it on the internet a lot, and it's like, but like if I had a nickel for every time a shithill Republican turned out to be an abusive wrestling coach, whatever, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's still weird that that's happened twice.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
Dennis Hastert, real piece of work, and from a similar mold.
Very much so. I mean, the couple of differences.
Yeah, he did the
Dennis
shit.
Hastert did the shit himself. Yeah. He was actually a high school wrestling coach instead of a college wrestling coach.
Kids were younger.
And he actually didn't go to prison for the actual abuse. He went to prison because of the hush payments that he was trying to pay. And basically how he did it. And that's how he got caught.
Pretty American.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Not getting caught for the thing, but getting caught for trying to cover up the thing.
Yeah.
Which is very American. It's also uniquely Republican, dare I say.
Well, yeah, for sure.
But that is how he got busted. Because again, when you are trying to cover something up, that is an admission of guilt. But you're absolutely right. He was speaker from 1999 to 2007. You look at any of the old George W. Bush speeches from the State of the Union, that was Hastert there, sitting there quite comfortable in the speaker's seat, even though he had, done all of these terrible things to children when he was a wrestling coach. So again, yes, you're absolutely right. for another former wrestling coach trying to go for speaker. And in Jim Jordan's case, I was actually reading about it this weekend. I mean, in Ohio, it's been an open secret for a long time.
The wrestling thing.
But yeah, Jim Jordan was an assistant coach in the 80s and 90s. That's usually how Republicans try to justify it. It's like, well, he wasn't doing the abuse. He didn't, but he was always in a position to do something about it.
Right.
And that is what and we were talking hundreds and hundreds of victims who have been tried to, they've been silenced or people attempted to silence them. And Jim Jordan, as a New York Times report even showed, he didn't just betray all of these athletes. He was actively calling athletes' parents and siblings and trying to get the athletes to not go forward with a lot of these lawsuits. So some Democrat, and this is another thing I've heard opined about from my Democrat friends, is they actually are fine with Jim Jordan becoming speaker, because this just means another speaker is about to get into some serious trouble when all of these allegations and everything, all these lawsuits are still happening right now. He could be called to the stand at any point with some of these. So if you're a Democrat, it's almost like one of those situations where, sure, get that wrestling coach who covered up all that sexual abuse, get him in the speaker seat, because you're looking at probably a speaker who will be in there for less than 260 days, the way Kevin McCarthy was.
So here's what one of his former wrestlers, this is a quote from Mike Schick, one of the former Ohio State wrestlers. It says, "Do you really want a guy in that job who chose not to stand up for his guys? Is that the kind of character trait you want for a House Speaker?" And another wrestler said, "My problem with Jimmy is that he's been playing with words instead of supporting us. None of us used the word sexual abuse when we talked about what the doctor was doing to us. We just knew it was weird, and Jimmy knew about it because we talked about it all the time in the locker room, at practice, everywhere." So there's like no way he didn't know. And like you said, it goes beyond just him knowing. He like actively participated in the covering up of the incidents, or at least attempted to. But yeah, that first quote's like, is this the kind of character trait you want in a speaker? I just feel like, the recent shit with Menendez, whatever, notwithstanding, it just feels like it's always, what is it with Republicans and like fucking abhorrent, disgraceful criminal backgrounds and shit? Just like deep, dark secrets. It's like every time it's just like back in the days of like rampant public homophobia, and then they get caught in airport bathrooms and all
Larry
that.
Craig.
That type of shit. Larry Craig, side note, a funny thing about him. Did you know that guy, the guy who got caught in the airport bathroom, who, ostensibly hated gays so much and everything. Back then they had a congressional cookbook.
Oh boy.
And every congressperson submitted a recipe to it.
Sure.
And Larry Craig's submission was the super tuber.
Oh God.
Which was a parboiled baked potato with a hot dog shoved through the center of it. And then you just eat this tater dog. He didn't put anything in there about salt or nothing either. People that are that white hate seasoning, but like,
sure. Well, he's from Idaho, so
he got to represent the potato. I understand, but I just thought, I don't know. That's like one of those things that sounds made up, but it's not. It's not made up. It's a real thing.
I have a similar Larry Craig fact in that same way, that obviously when everything was coming to light, I think it was like 2008, all of this came to light, because that was the year that the Republican National Convention was held in Minneapolis, which is where the bathroom in the airport where Larry Craig got caught. But they were looking at some of the expenditures that Larry Craig, the pork barrel spending, right? When a senator gets a bill or an amendment that they want.
Right.
Larry Craig had gotten millions of dollars for a dude ranch in Idaho. And that is a real thing on an expenditure sheet.
Yeah. Loves dudes, loves ranches. Whatever happened to Larry Craig? He dead?
He's not dead yet. He had that press conference where I think he resigned, and it was very staged. And because I remember he was reading a statement, he said, "I love my wife," cue wife, and then held her hand. And then, but he did, I think, eventually leave office. But is he dead? I don't know. He's probably just living on a dude ranch somewhere.
Yeah. Might be living his best life. Who knows? All the tater dogs in the world. So, again, the quote from the first wrestler, Mike Schick, saying, "Is this the kind of character trait you really want for somebody with that job?" It reminds me of like with the Kavanaugh hearings and stuff like that, and like people getting irate on the right, being like, they want these people just, torn apart, like you're whatever. It's like a witch hunt or character assassination, all this type of shit. And it's like, we're just saying that, like, you would hope that the standard for a position like this one, second in line behind Vice president's first in line, right?
Yeah,
So
he's
second in
yeah,
line.
yeah.
Yeah. Second in line for the U.S. presidency, you would hope that there'd be a very high standard for the person who is going to be, given that position. And yeah, I think covering up hundreds of cases of sexual abuse under your purview as a coach should be enough to disqualify a person from said position.
Sure, unless of course you're a Republican and the qualification is, can you keep a secret?
Right. Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. So, Travis, I did not know this, but you and producer Matt brought it to my attention that there's some kind of a precedent for this situation at the state level, and it comes from you and Jim Jordan's home state of Ohio. They had a situation there where they were having trouble identifying a Speaker of the House, and the Democrats in Congress there ended up working with the Republicans to avoid a far-right lunatic taking the job and to instead install a moderate Republican in his place. So would you tell us some more about that whole situation?
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, this weekend, I was literally reading all the stories about Scalise versus Jordan for the speakership in D.C. And meanwhile, in Ohio, the moderate Republicans and the Democrats chose a separate speaker that was another option besides the right-wing lunatic, as you say, a Republican speaker who was actually voted to be the speaker in the Republican caucus, but then 22 Republicans broke off and voted for the moderate. Now, the moderate is named Jason Stevens. He's a Republican House member in Ohio. He's out of Appalachia. So we actually, we do love our Appalachian Republicans. They do actually support things like roads and public schools. So I think that's kind of where the Democrats thought they could get some things done with Speaker Jason Stevens, as opposed to the right-wing lunatic, a fellow named Derek Marin. He is a kind of like Jim Jordan, a Republican House member in Ohio who never got anything done. He's never actually sponsored a piece of legislation that's got over the finish line. He has added amendments, things like local municipalities can't ban lead-based paint for buildings, and you can't get sued. And he did that because he's a landlord. So those are the things that Derek Marin has gotten done in the amendment process. So Derek Marin was, quote unquote, elected by an unofficial vote in a Republican caucus vote back in November. But that doesn't mean shit. Fortunately, what happens is when you get to the House floor and they actually have the candidates for speaker, what happened in January was a bit of a coup. Those 22 moderate Republicans broke off, voted with all 32 Democrats in the House, because we're very gerrymandered in Ohio. We actually have 67 Republicans and only 32 Democrats, which is not quite proportional to how Ohio actually votes. But that's how we're just one of the most gerrymandered states in the country. So essentially, you almost have like three political parties in the Ohio State House right now. You have your moderate Republicans, your Democrats,
and then the wingnuts.
And then the wingnuts. And the wingnuts love fighting their culture wars. They're trying to do something that you opposed way back in 2016, which was bathroom bans, banning certain sexes from going into certain bathrooms. They're very anti-trans. They're very pro-culture wars. And they're the ones who do a lot of the stuff that gets Ohio in the news nationally and internationally, where people will text me and be like, what the hell's going on in Ohio? And it's usually just those right-wing wing nuts like Derek Marin. Now,
that's always the way that goes. I was going to say it's same in Tennessee, but
they run everything.
We're almost exclusively right-wing politics.
Well, that's
positions of power in Tennessee.
That's what's so interesting. We only have 40 some of those right-wing wingnut guys, and again, so 45 of them, 22 moderate Republicans, 32 Democrats. And so Ohio is a very interesting situation where if you want to look at that and see how this could lead to a solution at the national level, do some moderate Republicans vote for Hakeem Jeffries? We don't know if that would actually get them what they want.
Come on, man. No way.
Or do we have some Democrats join the 20 Republicans who aren't voting for Jim Jordan to vote for a more moderate Republican?
Right.
But I think, as we've laid out and producer Matt has laid out, there's a lot of different scenarios where you don't want, if you're a Democrat in Congress, you don't want to vote for a Republican at all. And if you're a Republican in Congress, you can't vote for a Democrat at all.
Yeah, they're definitely not. I cannot imagine Hakeem Jeffries is going to get any of the moderate Republican votes or anything. And then if they, and I don't really see the other, the other possibility coming to fruition either. But in Ohio where they did this, right? the Democrats are like, we can't let this lunatic have this job, so we'll work with the non-lunatic-y Republicans to get a more regular guy in there. Now that guy's Speaker of the House, but there's a lot of implications of that. Like and I didn't know any of this either, but like he now controls the party's funding and how it's spent on campaigns and stuff like that, which is really, really pissing off the lunatic contingent. Yeah, because they'll better fund moderate candidates instead of lunatic candidates. But if the lunatic had one, he'd be doing the same thing, but in reverse. So like the implications of this could be that it like maybe keeps some of the more batshitty ones out of office potentially.
Yeah. In fact, that's why, I almost
could that be at the detriment to the Democrats in Ohio though? Maybe meaning you already don't have that many Democrats.
Right.
Could some of them lose to like moderate Republican opposition because of this? Because like they're better funded now. Because there was that whole thing during the midterms. There's like a Democratic strategy of like, oh, you want to face the lunatic,
right? Because then you win.
Because then you got a better chance of winning,
right?
You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's kind of complicated. I feel like
it's very complicated, but you did highlight a lot of good, interesting points in there. So first of all, I do want to defend my Democrat friends in Ohio, the 32 representatives, because again, they're in a super minority and they're up against a super majority, 67 to 32. It's not fair. It's all been gerrymandered that way. But at least in this situation, the Democrats have got to get what they can. Right. And that's why they went with Jason Stevens. And they did. Again, they got a few things that they wanted. This was a year where we had to pass our state budget for the next 2 years. So you got a lot of public school funding in there. You got pay raises for teachers. You got money for roads in Appalachia and rural Ohio, things that Democrats and both those moderate Republicans actually want. Right. So there's a lot of state budget stuff that the Democrats got a win out of this situation where they chose the more moderate Republican Jason Stevens for Speaker. Another situation where, for anyone who's been paying attention to Ohio the last few months, we had this vote in August about changing the threshold to modify the Constitution.
Yeah, that was we definitely talked about that on here. I know, and that was like basically a vote on the concept of democracy. I made one of my videos about it. I was like, the Ohio Republicans went to the people of Ohio and said, hey, we're going to have a vote on whether or not y'all think your vote should count for shit.
Right.
And the people of Ohio were like, well, I think I'm a vote for my vote should count for shit.
Yes, exactly.
And they were like, what? Surprise Pikachu face or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, anyway.
Well, the way we got that August vote was because the wingnuts, the right-wing Republicans, they wanted that vote to happen in May, which is when we usually have our primary, because they felt if it was in May, they had a better chance of passing. Jason Stevens, not officially, but the Democrats, because again, the Speaker of the House decides on when things come to the floor. Right? It's a very powerful position. He slow-walked that. And that is why he forced their hand and made them put it on the ballot in August in a special $20 million election, knowing that it was going to fail. So Speaker Jason Stevens never said as much, but he implied that he was not in favor of that constitutional change. And in working with the Democrats, it's more than likely that that's how we got that August election. Otherwise, it could have been in November, but then it wouldn't have been before this a big abortion vote that we're having in November. So again, Jason Stevens, he's given the Democrats little wins wherever they can. And now, like you had just talked about, and as a producer Matt has put there on the screen, now the rivalry is getting legal. And this has not happened yet to this point. It's crazy that we're 10 months into the year after that coup in January, but things have escalated quite a bit in that the wingnuts want to have some say over the caucus bank account, right? So when the Speaker of the House becomes the Speaker, he's in charge of, even if he's a Republican or a Democrat, he's in charge of that party's caucus bank account. And it's a campaign arm, right? So they determine, it's only got like $1.5 million in there. But again, when you're talking about rural races and stuff, 50,000 there, 10,000 there, makes a big difference. So what Jason Stevens and this right-wing group decided, they came up with a compromise a couple months ago. And they would have two co-chairs, and both co-chairs had to sign off on any expenditures for those expenditures to happen, right? So you had one wingnut and you had one moderate Republican in charge of that caucus campaign finance arm. Now, what has happened is that Jason Stevens and his moderate treasurer, who's in charge of the caucus, they just went ahead and kept spending money on moderates that they want to see take over seats, and they left the wingnuts out of the loop. So the wingnuts are basically trying to cite a very vague Ohio state law that whoever's in charge of the caucus needs to be in charge of the expenditures, and they're going to cite that, again, that very unofficial agreement they have as legal. I don't think this is going to hold up. Also, very funny, the lawyer bringing the case is literally the mom of one of these wingnut Republicans. So, they couldn't even find a good lawyer. They just grabbed this one dude's mom, which is very Republican, right? And so that's how this is going to go to court. We'll see what kind of hearings they have and everything like that. But obviously the moderate Republicans have waved this off, probably rightly, as just more political theater, because at the end of the day, that's all the right-wing guys are good at. We see with Jim Jordan, and we see with these lowly, nobody jackals in the Ohio State House who are just trying to make noise when they can make noise. But in terms of getting things done, they don't have anything in the budget that got in. A lot of their legislation goes nowhere. They don't know how to govern,
right?
As we've seen
very clearly,
nationwide, and we've seen that in Ohio.
All right. Well, an interesting case study, Ohio. As Ohio goes, so goes the world. I believe that's what they say. So what is going to happen next? We talked about earlier about maybe they join together to do this, to do that. Well, let's see what Jim Jordan himself says on that particular part of the conversation.
Let's go to the tape.
Yeah. Let's go to the tape, Matt. Here comes the tape. So this is what happens sometimes. We got to say, yeah.
I have a feeling Jim Jordan's not going to say anything about anything relating to wrestling.
Probably not. Here we go.
Are you going to stay in the race?
We're making progress. I feel good about it. We're going to keep going. I've had great conversations, great discussions with our colleagues, and frankly, no one in our conference wants to see any type of coalition government with Democrats. So we're going to keep working, and we're going to get to the votes.
Yeah.
How many ballots are you willing to go through?
There you have it.
No
one on their side has any interest in any kind of coalition government or working with the Democrats. Again, not really news, but does sort of let you know where they're at. So what does this actually mean? I mean, what's going to happen? How many more votes are they going to have? Took Kevin McCarthy, 14, 15? It doesn't seem like Jim Jordan. They could have 50, and I don't know if he'd get there.
Right.
So what do? Well, it's starting to seem like the most likely scenario is a version of nothing, or not entirely nothing, which is that's often what Congress defaults to as a general rule. If they can do nothing, they're going to do that every time. But what I mean by doing nothing is Kevin McCarthy getting ousted, that left there's an interim speaker, the speaker pro tempore, or whatever, Latin shit for temporary, the temporary interim speaker, and it's Representative Patrick T. McHenry from North Carolina.
I was just going to say I had some lovely tempura at a sushi restaurant, so I didn't know if it's Japanese or Italian, but I'll take it.
I like shrimp tempura, vegetable tempura, like all kinds of tempura. But yeah, Patrick McHenry is a speaker pro temporary. So he has that position now. Matt, let's show people what he can do. In case you haven't seen, this is him.
He's wearing a bow tie.
Chair declares the House in recess, subject to the call of the chair.
Whoa, the hammer!
The hammer, bringing the hammer down. Patrick the Hammer McHenry, right? Really giving
Does
it
he
to
know
that
he doesn't
gavel.
have to do that? Let's watch that again in slow motion, man. Whoa, buddy. He really hit him hard on that play.
Yes, he did. He put his shoulder into it. You can see a lot of technique there. This guy's practiced that at home, I think.
The bow tie, though.
Yeah.
No man's ever looked tough wearing a bow tie.
That's
so
true.
I'm going to take points off of his form for that.
Yeah, I agree. So this guy's the interim speaker, and it's starting to seem like what the play may end up being is that they just give him more actual power or capabilities in that role. Because right now it's nebulous what the interim speaker can or cannot do. It seems like not much is what people thought they could do. Basically hold the votes to get the next actual speaker and not much else. But they can change that. And if they do change that, it would give them the ability to, again, have to actually decide anything or like reach any kind of consensus on their side, God forbid, and still manage to avoid the government shutting down. Because it'd be like sort of like the continuing resolutions that they do when they can't get a budget passed, but they don't want the government to shut down. So it's like, let's just keep it like this until we do figure it out. It's like a version of doing that but with this guy in that position, and a lot of people think that this is maybe where it's headed.
Right. And there was an interesting analysis that producer Matt gave us that this was all a post 9/11 position, right? That they kind of created in case there ever was like an unforeseen vacancy, which obviously with Kevin McCarthy getting voted out the way that he did is very unforeseen and a vacancy. So he, again, this Patrick McHenry guy, he really kind of fits that role because I think you're right. The rules can be changed as needed. And then in this way, like we were saying, Democrats don't want to vote for a Republican and then have to go seek re-election saying that, right? And Republicans don't want to go vote for a Democrat for speaker and go try to seek re-election saying that. So what we end up in a situation is Democrats in this situation can blame the Republicans for the dysfunctionality of everything going on. As we saw with Kevin McCarthy, he's going to blame the Democrats for the dysfunctionality that's going on. But with this Patrick McHenry fellow with the bow tie, wielding the gavel, dare I say, slam wielding that gavel
with authority,
with major authority. But again, he's wearing a bow tie, so who the hell knows?
Odd choice.
But again, that can kind of keep things going. If that is indeed what this position is supposed to do, is just kind of keep things the same and continuing, then that might be what both sides decide to do. Which means we're going to go for what, over a year till the next election. With Patrick McHenry, that gavel's not going to survive the next year. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, he's going to have some backup gavels in place. He's going to keep swinging it like that.
It's going to be like a Three Stooges movie where it's just the gavel keeps flying off and hitting somebody in the head.
Where you at on Scalise, by the way? Guy said he a direct quote from him called himself David Duke without the baggage.
Yeah,
baggage being that whole Ku Klux Klan thing.
Sure, right.
You may have heard that baggage.
That's all baggage, right? Well, he's a Louisiana Republican, so down there, I guess that is what they think of as baggage. Just a minor baggage there. I'll be honest, I was surprised when he dropped out. I mean, I wonder if he dropped out because he knew he wouldn't have the votes,
right?
Or maybe there's some thing going on, but I know he's dealing with a blood cancer. He's also like the only Republican congressman who got shot up in that weird baseball shootout, whereas some wild Republicans always like to point to that and talk about Democrats being out of control. I think if you're a more independent, moderate person, we can all agree that was very uncalled for. But Scalise survived. And he moved up the ranks, and now he's got blood cancer. So I honestly thought everyone was going to get behind him. Even Jim Jordan said that he was going to get behind Scalise. So I will be honest, I don't know what the analysis is or the behind-the-scenes hot takes are. I don't know why Scalise dropped out. I thought he was about to get the job.
What do you think it means just in general for the future of the Republican Party, all this shit that's going on with them right now? Because none of this would be happening if they hadn't fostered this contingent of lunatics in their own party. And, they got the inmates running the asylum over there or whatever. In certain way. It's like they 100% made that bed. You know what I mean? And now they're pissing all in it too. And complaining that they can't get any sleep and whatnot. But what do you do? Like if you're a Republican strategist or whatever, if you're in the GOP right now, where do they go from here? How do you address that? What does it mean for the future of that side of American politics?
Well, this question reminds me of a question that you did ask earlier that I didn't quite get to, but about running the lunatics versus the moderates, right? Like in Ohio, again, as we kind of get these new gerrymandered districts, which are going to be less gerrymandered because the Democrats, again, took what they could, making a deal with the Republicans. So it's going to be less gerrymandered. But right now, moderate Republicans versus crazy Republicans in a place like Ohio, everything's so gerrymandered that you do want those moderate Republicans so they can just run a functional government with the Democrats, right? Now, on a nationwide level, I mean, again, it's going to be, like you said, the Democrats are actually supporting and giving money to some of these lunatics who are running to some of these races. So in a lot of ways, Democrats got exactly what they wanted too. You get your George Santos, although that was more the New York Democratic Party kind of just blowing that one, to be honest. But, like places like Arizona, Matt Gaetz out of Florida, these are usually safe Republican districts where the lunatic has won. And they made these rules. It was Matt Gaetz who actually made the demand of McCarthy about the one vote. The one motion to vacate is all it took. And so McCarthy, in that sense, got exactly what he deserved. Matt Gaetz got exactly what he wanted. But to your point, where is this going to go now for moderate Republicans who just want to govern? Democrats who just want to get anything done, and the lunatics who we don't even know what they stand for. I mean, they're still trying to do Biden crime family committee meetings, right? And
laptop stuff.
Laptops. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene literally showed Hunter Biden's big ding dong on postcards in Congress. So C-SPAN briefly became pretty hot for a couple hours.
Yeah, they do that shit, and then they bitch about Fetterman wearing a hoodie or whatever.
Yeah, right. And then they change the Senate rules. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, Matt, once you start finding us some comments and questions from the viewers up there, this is a live show, T-Rod.
Oh, hell yeah.
So they're watching. But in the meantime, while he's looking for those, I also just a quick hitter question. Well, the election next year, how do you feel about it? You feel terrible? You feel somewhat optimistic, or you don't like thinking about it?
It goes back and forth for me, depending on the day and depending on the news. For a long time, I was thinking just Biden's got this. Trump's gonna keep getting worse and worse. I mean, not just health wise, but legal wise.
Right. Yeah.
And he's gonna. I think Trump was gonna bring down everything with him, right? But then I don't know. Every single charge just keeps him. He keeps raising more money, and he gets even stronger, and he's so far ahead, right? I watched all those Republican debates. I'm sure you did too. And I'm watching, it's like none of these people are even close to the lead that Trump has. So it's going to be Trump.
Oh, it's going to be Trump for sure.
It's going to be Trump versus Biden again, which will be interesting. It's, putting on my history brain. It's the first time we've had the same candidates run against each other, probably since your early William Jennings Bryan, William McKinley races. Yeah, right? 1896, 1900. They ran against each other twice. Maybe a Franklin Delano Roosevelt, because he was, president for 4 terms. Maybe someone ran against him multiple times. But as far as I know, this is like once every 100 years.
It's an Ivy League son of a bitch, right?
All right, man. Look at that. That's $60,000 hat right there, man.
Goodwill, buddy.
I'm still paying for this hat.
Debbie Lynn Robinson says, hit the like button. Thank you, Debbie. I always forget to say that. Yeah, it's important on YouTube and whatnot, apparently.
Oh, yeah. Smash that
like button, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, share, leave us a 5-star review. Tell your mom and them. Cerberus says, I can't wait to see Don Jr.'s laptop when it leaks eventually.
It's already leaking lots of fluid, but I bet you there's just a bunch of crusty white residue on the top of it, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm trying to make a joke about what cokeheads will be looking at on their computer like late at night. You know what I mean?
They just look at coke. They just snort it off their laptop. Yeah. It's the only clean surface.
So Trump, I'll never be comfortable until Trump has
dead?
Yes, committed himself to oblivion eventually. But as far as all that, I'm never gonna because I honestly feel dumb about it in retrospect. But in 2016, I was saying publicly, I was like, early on, I was saying this guy's a bigger thing than y'all think he is. Like, you should take it seriously, whatever, because of my home county, and I saw something happening and everything. But I still didn't think at the end of the day he would actually win, and so I'm never going to count anything out now. But it's like, I mean, surely, man, surely to God, but it's also frustrating. You see, LaRon Harrison says, wow, Travis going to the history archives. I know. That's shit. I mean, I know he's a smart guy, but I was like, God damn, who'd you, William Jennings Bryan?
Oh, man. Yeah, he was a socialist Democrat. He was a stalwart for the working class. He wanted to make silver the currency and everything. And William McKinley wanted to keep gold the currency. Check out those early 1896, 1900s, as the Gilded Age was wrapping up. Those William Jennings Bryan, William McKinley races. They were both named William, which was Bill versus Bill, but otherwise they couldn't have been more different. And it set the pace for the first 20, 30 years of the 1900s. Yeah.
Were they campaigning on the backs of trains, stopping in towns and calling each other scurrilous vagabonds and stuff like that? Yeah.
And by the way, those were the days also when the rural areas were more Democrat and the cities were more Republican, right? Because the rich people were still Republican. That's never changed. But they were all in the cities. So your Kansases, your South Dakotas, right? These were Democratic
strongholds.
Yeah, strongholds where a guy like William Jennings Bryan, he was standing up for the working class. In fact, last little historical piece. Adds in a little literature here. The Wizard of Oz is kind of like a whole social commentary on gold bricks, right? The Gold Brick Road. Wizard of Oz, OZ, ounces, right? And the silver shoes in the book, that's what Dorothy, who's a farmer from Kansas, from a farming town in Kansas, she needs those silver shoes to actually be free and get home, as opposed to just following the pointless gold brick road to the Emerald City. So the Emerald City is all about, the Wizard of Oz. He's hiding behind everything and he doesn't mean anything. So it was all social commentary how the gold was worthless. It was a ploy to just lead you nowhere. The Emerald City was a city that was built on lies, but it was the greenbacks. But silver, William Jennings Bryan, and the author of that book, L. Baum, what is it now doing? Frank L. Baum?
Frank L. Baum,
Yeah. They were all big silver guys.
Man, this is like I have a real dedication to making sure I am always the dumbest motherfucker on my own show.
Honestly, it's just the hat. I'm usually pretty. I sound like Don Jr. most of the time.
Natalie Nichols says Matt tore up the slow mo. What's funny about this? I love when Matt does this. He kind of gives himself flowers sometimes. You know what I mean? Because he's the one picking the comments.
I mean, I want to see that slow mo McHenry with that gavel all day.
He gets the pro him comments and throws them up there. But he deserves his flowers. Of course he does. Jimmy Naughton. Oh, this is fun. Jimmy Naughton says, I'm wondering if Kennedy's independent run will screw up the Republican ticket. So, the first instinct we hear, this guy's running in the Democrat primary. He's a Kennedy. You're like, oh shit, that could be a problem. Right. And he gets like an early boost or whatever. And then eventually he shifts to he shifts to independent, and your instinct is to think like that's not good for Biden. But a lot of polls and a lot of shit seems to indicate it actually goes in the other direction. And it's not good for Trump because he spent that intervening time saying exclusively crazy people shit, which appealed to the crazy people who are mostly on the right.
Yes.
Right? Like, so, I mean, do you agree with that assessment of it? Like, how do you think that's going to factor in?
Yeah, no, it's all good analysis because I was kind of seeing the same thing, right? I still subscribe to Roger Stone's emails just to know what he's saying because as crazy as he is, a lot of what he thinks and says eventually comes true. For example, Trump being president in 2016. So Roger Stone had the same analysis that you did, that everyone sees that a Kennedy who was running as a Democrat now switching to being an independent. But a lot of the polls that they're already kind of putting out there, you're right. Kennedy actually polls more from Trump and pulls more from independents than he actually does from Democrats. This is one of those weird years where Democrats actually fall in line and kind of galvanize behind their candidate, whereas a lot of the independents and moderates have abandoned Trump, and then a lot of the crazies that Trump needs would go to a Robert Kennedy Jr. Not because he's JFK Jr., who they thought was going to come back
from the dead.
They just like, oh, see, it wasn't a J, it was an R. It was an R the whole time on the 4chan. So that
close enough.
And I will just add, as someone who's run as a third-party candidate in Ohio, obviously I ran in 2018 to actually steal votes away from the Republican Mike DeWine so the Democrat would win. That's a fun fact. That's something I joked about on our tour. If I, running as a libertarian in Ohio, stole enough votes away from the Republican to make the Democrat win, then my libertarian friends would be happy, my Democrat friends would be happy, my Republican friends would still not exist. So that's a win-win-win for a third-party guy like me. But I'm just going to say this right now, Robert Kennedy Jr., he's got to get on the ballot in 50 states as an independent, and that is going to be hard.
Right.
Because every single state, that's 50 different rules for getting on the ballot. And unless he can actually do it in swing states like Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, those states that Biden needs to win, it's not going to matter that he's on the ballot. If he's on the ballot in like California and New York, maybe he cleans up there, but those are safe Democrat states already. And that same goes for red states. So unless he's on the ballot in swing states, I don't think it matters.
You got a fan here. Bob Sullivan says, got to love a hot, smart political nerd.
Thank you, Bob. You're the first person to ever say that.
Sylvia Kidwell says, I love him. Can he come on more? Yeah, of course he can. Please return, Travis.
Oh, my God. Well, now Matt's just putting all the nice comments. Let's see some of those mean comments. Where's Mark? That's what I want to know. That's going to be my comment.
What'd you just say? RFK Jr., you're talking about
Appalachia?
Yeah, it is. It's Appalachia. If I was Drew, I would have stopped you right then and corrected you, but I'll just let it ride.
I went to school in Athens, Ohio, which is like the foothills of Appalachia. So I never really learned how to say it right. Yeah, here it is now. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Parquet says it's pronounced Appalachia, not Appalachia.
Appalachia.
Oh, what's he got to get? What is it again? Because, okay, first of all, you mentioned you ran as a libertarian. You're a big third-party guy. I don't like the two-party system. I agree the two-party system don't hit.
Yeah.
And I know from being your friend, you got into libertarianism, like college days and stuff like that. But nowadays, you exclusively vote for Democrats, right? Because of how insane the Republicans are, pretty much.
I have to. Well, and I'm in a Democrat county in Columbus, Ohio, Franklin County. That's a Democrat stronghold now for Ohio. It's like one of the only ones. I mean, again, we're covering Ohio politics. We have 88 counties. It's pretty much 8 Democrat counties against 80 red counties usually, but those 8 Democrat counties have millions and millions and millions of people, right? So yeah, in my
when they do that,
hometown,
dude, they'll show those, like, conservatives online will show those maps, whatever, and it's like,
yeah,
you tell me the election wasn't rigged, and it's like a map of America where it looks almost entirely red with just little pockets of blue, and it's like all that red is empty. There's nobody there.
There's no one there, right?
There's no one there.
Some of those counties have like 13,000 people tops. So, but yeah, that's kind of how I, again, because Republicans have gone so off the rails, like I still have a soft place in my heart for third political parties, but right now they're not even on the ballot in Ohio. So yeah, my county's Democrat. I usually vote for Democrats. Now I will say, if it's a local election, like my hometown, I just voted for my friend Alex Silverman in Bexley. Check him out. He was endorsed by the Democrats, but it's a nonpartisan race. So again, that goes to me back to what like politics should be. Like you said, it shouldn't be R's and D's or two-party system. It should be nonpartisan and just vote for the people you know and who you like.
But because you have that background or whatever, right? What is it? How is it that RFK Jr. would get on the debate stage with them at the whatever? There's like a threshold for, what is it?
He would never get on the debate stage because the old joke that we had about what's the percentage for a third party candidate to get into the debate, it's always going to be 5% more than their polling. And that's what they did to me in Ohio in 2018. When they saw I was polling at 6%, the threshold again in the debates was usually 5% in polling. When I was polling at 6, they raised it to 10. So they didn't want me in the debates, and that's kind of how that usually goes.
So he ain't going to pull a Ross Perot or nothing. Perot got in there, right?
In fact, because Ross Perot did so well in '92 and got 19% of the popular vote,
they decided to never let that happen.
Yeah, exactly, because he crushed it in the debates. After that, they created the Commission on Presidential Debates, which is exclusively been created and exists to keep people like Ross Perot out, because they never want people to understand that there are more than 2 options. But both parties agree. That's the one area where Republicans and Democrats agree, is let's make it harder for a third option to even exist.
Yeah, 'tis a bummer. Sylvia Kidwell says, how's the tour going? Tour's going great. I was just in Washington State. I was in Spokane and then Tacoma, and those shows were all packed and awesome. So thank you to Washington. And I'm gonna keep it rolling. Like Travis comes with me sometimes. He did all the Ohio shows. We did 5 cities and 5 nights in your homeland. It was a good time, wasn't it?
It was a great time. And I will say, I do have one show down in San Diego this Friday.
Shit, I meant to do that way earlier. Please, first of all, Alan Speed says, see you in Charleston on Friday. Yes, you will. Can't wait. Gonna be fun. But yeah, as we're getting close to wrapping up, please tell everybody, how they can follow you, check your shit out. You got shows coming up, whatever. Hit them with all that.
So this Friday in San Diego, I'll be at the Balboa Theater with all my friends from the Last Podcast Network. I will be actually wearing an American flag onesie, and I will be naming all the presidents in order from 1 to 46 and ripping a good old American whiskey shot after every 10 presidents. And I'll say an interesting fact about whatever that president is at that time. So this is a bit I've done for years. I've had all the presidents memorized since I was in 2nd grade. So I've been a political nerd for way too long. And this will be kind of the culmination, the final act of this
what grade did you just say?
2nd grade. I had all the presidents memorized. Bro. Now, there were less of them then. But
not that many.
Yeah, it was 4 less of them. But this is a fun bit to do. So if you're in San Diego on Friday, October 20th, come check us out at the Balboa Theater. Tickets are available from their website. Beyond that, you can follow me on all social media, Travis Irvine USA, and that's on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever you like. I don't do anything else besides those 3, though, right now. It's too hard. I can't keep up, man.
What you got to do is, if you're like me, you just have one thing that you do pretty much, and then just do that same thing on all of them.
Okay.
It's still kind of a pain in the ass to have to go on there and, open up 6 different apps and whatever, but,
right.
And they've all got their different caption. It doesn't matter. Listen, check this guy out. Go see him if you have the opportunity. And I was just thinking, for those of you out there in the extended Skews universe that also watch Putting On Airs, me and Corey's show about fancy stuff, I want to have you on POA and talk about president shit.
Hell yeah, we can do that.
Because the presidents are fancy. A lot of them.
A lot of them are fancy. Some of them
we get into history a lot on there too, so that'll be fun.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, I think tremendous job. I'm sure you all agree. Thanks for being here, buddy. It was a lot of fun. We'll definitely have you back on with me and Mark in the near future. I mean, pretty much anytime you want to come on here and talk about something, you can. So thank you all for watching. Like I said, go to TraeCrowder.com. Check out my upcoming dates. Get tickets. Come see me. Check out the book Around Here and Over Yonder, me and Corey. And you can support this show and get extra episodes of it by signing up on Patreon at weeklyskews.com/more. But the main thing is you keep coming back every Skews day. And if you will, we will too. I'm Trae. That's been Travis. Mark will be back, and we'll see you.